On Tuesday, Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari met with governors, ministers, and heads of government agencies at the State House, Abuja, over Iftar. During the meeting, he advised Nigerians to resist agents bent on causing breakdown of law and order in the country. Buhari also gave an assurance to Nigerian people that with advancements in technology by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the 2023 elections would be different and prevent individuals from claiming millions of votes at elections. The president affirmed that being a beneficiary of free, fair, and credible elections, the introduction of technology and permanent voters' cards, PVCs, would make it impossible for anyone to claim millions of votes again in the country in 2023 elections. Joining us now to discuss the advancement of technology usage by INEC ahead of the 2023 general election in Nigeria is Ikechukwu Nnamani, president of the Association of Telecommunication Companies of Nigeria. Good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Mr. Nnamani, good morning. Well, I know Tunu focused on the president talking about how technology, the deployment of technology, would facilitate the electoral process. But there is a more urgent business, in my view. This linkage of national identification numbers to SIM cards, in which the telecommunications companies are playing a major role. It's been a spectacle of confusion, chaos, absolute demonstration of incompetence on the part of both NIMC, the NCC, and also the telecom companies. Even persons who have the NIN, as it is otherwise called, they've had their lines barred for weeks. And nobody is responding, nobody is saying anything. Only MTN seems to be innocent in this matter. But all the other telecom companies, following government directive, have created a unnecessary nightmare for Nigerians. What is your association doing about this? And are you even aware of this, confusion at all? Let's start from there.
Thanks for that question. The reality is that the process of first, you need to separate registering for NIM and then also having your SIM card registered and then linking the two of them. Those are three different activities. And one of the things we found out is that, unfortunately, some people are not aware that these are three different activities that needs to take place. So you've got a situation where some people have their SIMs duly registered, but don't have NIM. You also have a situation where some people go and try to get NIM, but don't have it linked to their SIM card. So that, unfortunately, has been part of the challenge that is currently being addressed. But as you also know very well, for a long time, the process to link both of them and to have a situation where both must be linked dragged for a long time. Several times it was extended once a date was given. And unfortunately, which was also part of what we were warning people against, some just decided that it would perpetually be extended. So unfortunately, they did not do the needful. Now, that is on the citizen side of it. The other side of it, which we must all be honest about, is also to understand that these are technology-related activities, and sometimes there could be glitches at either the point of registration or glitches at the terminal where the data is being uploaded into the national database. These are realistic things that, unfortunately, you can't run away from. Now, what you do is, once you notice any challenge with your current service, either you've not linked both of them, or when it was linked, it was not properly transmitted, so it was not registered into the database. What needs to happen is to resolve this by visiting your network service provider and ensuring that this is addressed. As you've also said, the process to address it would vary depending on one network service provider or the other. That is obviously why we have multiple providers in the market, because the quality of service, customer service, and the rest of it varies based on service providers. So you notice in reality that some providers may be more efficient than others. is what it is. That is part of the reason why we are not a monopoly from a service provider standpoint. But all I can say is that these points are noted. Anybody that claims ignorance of it is being economical with the truth. And what we are currently doing is finding the fastest way to address it across all board.
Right, thank you for that, Mr. Nnamani. Back to 2023 general elections. Now, we've come a long way from last summer where we had senators claiming that they were opposed to electronic transfer of results because they don't have network in their villages, which was such a scandal at the time. And now we hear President Buhari touting these advancements in technology and how they're going to guarantee a free, fair, and credible election. Do you agree with him? Are you as confident as the president? And what is the basis of your position?
Thanks. For starters, and it's good to make this clear, ATCON as an association, we are apolitical, so we naturally don't get involved in political parties' activities or anything that has to do with that. But we are also a service provider, and for the subject matter we are discussing, we definitely would play a great role in the forthcoming election from two standpoints. One is ensuring that whatever network service is needed at any of the polling service centers is active and working the way it should work. The second is to ensure that if any of the platform is used for transmission of the results to a collation center or the INEC point where the results should be announced, that transmission is secured and done in an efficient way that would have the confidence of everybody that has participated in the process. Those are the two critical roles we have to play. And as we speak, I'm very confident that the telecom industry is capable and able to play that role from the standpoint that the facilities or infrastructure or technology that is needed to make this happen already exists. We just have to go to work, and people should be transparent and honest about their activities and the role they play. But the technology do exist, and we are capable of playing that role once called upon to do that.
I'd like to just know, if you can give me some data and stats, what's the penetration rate now, across your members, telecoms operators and the likes, as regards services across the 774 local government area? What's the least base minimum? There is
no part of the country that you don't have telecom service today. No single part of the country. Every single part of the country is covered. Now, you need to differentiate from having 4G, 5G, and having 2G service, or even having satellite communication. There is currently no single part of Nigeria today that is not covered by satellite communication. So when you're talking about the penetration rate, the answer is every single part of Nigeria today is covered by one form of technology or the other. So for the purpose of this discussion, which is most likely transmission of election result, there is no part of Nigeria that result cannot be transmitted from as of today. From the very part that there is satellite communication that covers every single part of Nigeria today. Even if the 4G, 5G is not there, satellite can get to every single part of Nigeria today.
Okay, so I would like to know, the base minimum point for transmission will be around 2 or 3G. So across the 774 local governments, are you going to say, okay, apart from the satellite communication, which you fully, highlighted, are you going to say, okay, we have this threshold, that threshold, 2 to 3G? What's the span like?
Yes, there is at least 2G pretty much in every part of the country in terms of service getting to it. Remember also, and we have to also be realistic, there are some parts of the country where communication infrastructure has been damaged as a result of one issue or the other, terrorism and the rest of it. So those parts of the country, if the infrastructure provided has been damaged, until it is restored, they won't have a service. But again, I take you back to the fact that if push comes to shove, satellite can be used as a last resort to be able to provide service, and satellite is available in every part of the country.
Okay. Well, very recently, ATCON, right? Association of Telecom Communications. I don't know what the relationship is between your association and that other association, threatened to shut down operations in some states of the Federation. About 5, 6, they provided a list. And the issues they listed included problem with diesel, 2, tax issues, multiple taxation, particularly in a state like Kogi State, although Kogi denied that outrightly. And then 3rd, a hostile business environment which could affect business service provision for Nigerians who use telecom services. Now, could you shed some light on that? You know, taxation, right-of-way issues, cost of diesel, and all of that. You know, our telecom operators just offering an excuse to be inefficient and to disappoint customers, or the challenges are real, and how are you stakeholders addressing those challenges, if they are real?
Thanks so much. The truth of the matter is the challenges are real, and it's verifiable. These issues you listed are not something that cannot be easily verified in every one of these states that are affected. The citizens themselves can verify it, because remember, if we're complaining of a high cost of diesel or power supply or unavailability of power, it's not restricted to the cell site or base stations. People at home in those cities also experience it. So these are very, very verifiable facts. The issues of multiple taxation, you can verify that by walking into the tax office, or if need be, subject to what can be shared, invoices or demand letters can be made available where various agencies are demanding payment for exactly the same type of tax in one form or the other. So these are verifiable facts. It's not being made up, and that's just the reality of it. The sad part, which is what we've tried to focus on, because for a long time, we tried to have reasonable conversation to explain that this is a win-win situation. We are in the digital economy. Everything is gone digital, and telecom is the backbone that powers the digital economy. So if you as a state, for some reason, have not seen that you actually need this infrastructure to be operating efficiently in your state, to improve your IGRO, to improve the quality of life of your citizens, something is wrong. That is my candid opinion on it, you know, because that was the starting point. The starting point was that, look, let's be reasonable about this. More revenue can actually accrue to the states if they have efficient telecom infrastructure running and people are able to do business, operate better in those states. But for some reason, it's as if some of the state agencies just don't understand or appreciate that other side of it. It's like they want to collect the revenue upfront before the infrastructure is fully implemented or even activated within the state. So unfortunately, the cost of business has been very, very high. Some of it is unavoidable, but some of it truly is man-made, and is the man-made versions of these issues that we are trying to address with the relevant agencies or authorities. But to answer your question directly, these are verifiable facts that people within these localities themselves can confirm, and we have evidence to back it up.
Now, I want to talk about the use of technology in addressing staggering security challenges in this country. What is your assessment on that rather blunt instrument that was the telecom's blackout, supposedly to help check insecurity? Was done in Zamfara. Was there any point to that? Were there any benefits to that? Should that kind of policy be revisited? What is your take on that? I'll start there.
Yeah, the truth is that there is a very stringent process before a decision like that is taken. It's naturally taken based on advice from the Office of the National Security Advisor after they've done security assessment and came to conclusion that this is one way to mitigate whatever challenge is prevailing at that point in time. As you also know, these are not decisions taken for a long period of time. They are taken for a particular snapshot in their activity to be able to achieve a set objective. Now, unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to dwell more on some of these security issues because some are under some element of classification. But the reality is we are always available to assist the security agencies when called upon, even at the detriment of potential loss of income or revenue, just to ensure that the security challenges are resolved when needed.
Let's talk about data latency threshold, especially for those communities that, one, yes, will probably get a 2-3G and pervasively across the country. What's the latency like? Because you see, since INEC says they're going to be transferring to a cloud platform, and we have seen real data latency issues in parts of this country. So how viable are those 2-3G networks?
Thanks. So when you talk of, we need to, when it comes to latency, right, the service being offered or being taken is where latency becomes important or not that important, right? If you have a situation where you have to upload a file and there is a particular timeline for that file to be received, what you are dealing with at that time is a combination of the bandwidth, which is the speed of transmission, right, to ensure that enough data is transmitted at a particular space of time to the destination. And the further the distance, you know, it's like the old basic law of physics, where you are looking at distance and then you are talking of velocity and you are talking of time. Those three combine to create what we call latency. You follow? Now, the further the distance is, the transmission distance is, compared to the speed, that is where latency comes in. If the distance is shorter at the same speed, then the latency is small because you get to your destination in a faster time, right? So, but if the distance is far and the speed is slow, that is where you feel it. And it all now have to do with the speed of transmission, what we call broadband and bandwidth and the rest of it. I'm getting a little technical, so let me just try to get to the basics of it. What we are saying is that if you are doing, like we are having this over Zoom, if the quality or if the latency is poor, you're going to notice some buffering in the communication. So it will be slow, it will not be efficient, the quality of the transmission or the experience will be poor because of latency issues. But if it is not live streaming, if it is not video, if it is not a specific type of application, you may not even notice the latency because all you know is that specific amount of data has been received as at when needed. So coming to the issue we are trying to address, which is what do you need to actually transmit results to a collation point? And by the way, when we're discussing cloud, let me state here that any cloud service that will be implemented by INEC will be Nigerian-based cloud. It will be what we call Nigerian cloud, local cloud. So we are not talking of sending stuff outside the country. In this case, everything, there is a lot of infrastructure being put as we speak to create the Nigerian-based cloud where the servers and infrastructure are located within Nigeria. So it is a localized kind of transmission that will help drastically reduce the issue of latency because the origination and destination of the data is within Nigeria. It's not outside the country. We're not going to go through any of the submarine cables or external means to be able to come back into the country. That's going to help drastically in reducing the latency issues. But at the same time, it all depends also on what needs to be sent, the size of the data and the rest of it. For a basic result transmission, we don't anticipate that to require a lot of data usage. So we also don't expect that the process and the speed to transmit will be something that would lead to serious latency issues. But all this, again, beyond being technical about it, all this is subject to review. And I'm sure the group within INEC, they'll probably have some try runs of some of this before Nigerians are in a position to vote and use it. But again, I don't anticipate challenges based on what I know needs to be done.
Well, Mr. Nnamani, just so many other questions, but we need to manage time because we have to go. But I need you to make a clarification for me. There is this group called the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, ALTON, which is led by Mr. Gbenga Adebayo. And yours is Association of Telecom Companies of Nigeria. And, you know, both associations say more or less the same thing. They look like a duplication of one another. I'm a bit confused. You know, what's the difference?
Thanks.
And, you know, is there any synergy? Yes, please.
Yes, I'll clarify that for you. So ATCON is the, we naturally say the umbrella association of telecom and ICT service providers in Nigeria. ATCON has currently 9 subgroups. Included in the subgroup is a group for licensed telecom operators, which ALTON is specific about. ALTON role is focused on especially the MNOs and PTOs, as we call them. But within ATCON, not only do we have that as a subgroup, we also have the infrastructure service provider as a subgroup. We have the ISPs as a subgroup. We have the fintech industry as a subgroup. We have equipment vendors as a subgroup. We have equipment manufacturers as a subgroup. We have the OTT service providers as a subgroup. We have telecom consultant as a subgroup. So within ATCON, you have, it's like the umbrella, and then within that you have different subgroups that also have their own association. For instance, the ISPs, though a subgroup within ATCON, also have their ISPAN, which is specific to ISPs. So ATCON is the umbrella association, but within that you have various subgroups that also cater to the specific need of a particular class of service providers. But we all collaborate when we have events, we all participate to build a bigger ecosystem. So you can look at ATCON as the ecosystem where every subgroup comes together, because at the end of the day, thanks to convergence of technology and services, we must all interact. So while the licensed operators may have a subgroup within ALTON that is specific to their need and is actually very efficient, that's why we work together, because there are some activities that is geared towards the licensed operators. For instance, when you talk of SIM card and NIN registration and linkage, you notice it's more specific to service providers. It's got not to do with infrastructure providers like your cell site providers or your data center providers and all that. So ALTON will lead in that to be able to push it through. But when you have to deal with several people coming together, several class of service providers coming together, that is where it's done under the umbrella of ATCON. So we all work together, but it's one big ecosystem, one big family, if I may put it that way.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nnamani, for that clarification. Very useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.